Hey guys, what's up? It's Monklezunky and welcome to the next top 10 video. This time we're going to be going over the best 10 familiars in game. So I will be going over mostly combat related familiars because if you didn't know this already, most of the familiars are more related towards combat, but there are a couple very useful skilling related familiars within this top 10 list as well. So before we get started, quick shout out to this guy, Soviet on RS. He has been extremely determined and has posted top 10 summoning familiars about 50 to 60 times on videos, and I'm finally getting around to it. Sorry it took so long, but we had to wait until the moment was right, and now is that moment. So let's get into the list. Top 10 summoning familiars in game. With number 10 on the list, we are going to be starting off with a skilling familiar, and this one is the Nightmare Muspah. So you need level 81 summoning in order to use this guy, and he makes divination AFK. Well, it already was somewhat AFK depending on your definition of those three letters. However, it becomes even more so with the Nightmare Muspah because he has 30 inventory spaces, and all of the memories that you harvest will immediately go directly to the Muspah's inventory before they go to yours. So it'll completely fill up the Nightmare Muspah, and after he is filled, then it will fill up your inventory as well. So counting the 28 spaces in your inventory, you have 58 spaces to work with. However, he can only store the energy and memories. You can't store anything else inside him, but it does make divination a lot more AFKable and a lot more enjoyable, and especially when you're dumping in the energy into the rift, it just takes so much longer to do that. So very, very nice familiar just because it's extremely convenient. And also on top of all this, he also grants a passive boost, 3% higher chance to find enriched memories, so he'll increase your XP per hour a little bit as well. Overall, really good convenience familiar. However, he is a little bit outclassed by a familiar that we'll have later on in the video. Not trying to spoil too much here, but still a solid entry at number 10. Number 9 on the list is the Lava Titan, and as soon as I was making this list, I wanted to make sure I included at least one familiar that just has a very, very solid and useful passive boost, but isn't all that exciting. But he is a familiar that you're going to use a lot on your trip to 99 mining. So what the Lava Titan does is he provides not one but two passive boosts, and a lot of people don't even know about the second one because it's not very useful, but he passively boosts plus 10 mining levels and plus 10 fire making levels. So the fire making one doesn't do a whole lot for you because passive boost means that you will act as if you're 10 levels higher than you were, but you cannot use the boost to burn logs or mine ore that is higher than your current level. So this is very handy with mining because your mining level determines your success rate when mining ores. So if your mining level is 10 levels higher than it normally would, you're going to have that much of a better chance of mining the ore when you're mining it. So if you're doing something like harmonized rocks like I'm doing here, or Sarin stones, or living rock caverns, or anything like that, make sure to bring this level 83 summoning familiar with you because he will greatly increase your speed of mining the ores. As for the fire making boost, that's not really going to do a whole lot for you, so I wouldn't worry about it, but overall, very solid familiar getting you to 99 mining. Number 8 on the list is the Talon Beast, and the reason why I included this guy is because he's actually a very solid combat familiar for his level. So every single time the Talon Beast attacks, he hits his target 4 times. And depending on the target's defense, this can add up to a lot of damage. I'm fighting Abbey Demons here, which have very strong melee defense, but depending on the task, this guy can really output a lot of damage, and also he's incredibly cheap. The pouches are only about 3 to 4k, and you don't need the summoning scrolls. The summoning scroll does the exact same thing as its regular attack does, except it's a magic-based attack instead of a melee-based attack. But the damage between his normal attacks and the scroll is very similar, so I wouldn't worry about it. But overall, the Talon Beast does a lot of hits, and he's only level 77, so it's not the highest summoning requirement. So if you don't have access to those better familiars, like a Steel Titan, for example, to help out with your Slayer task, make sure you bring a Talon Beast along with you, and you don't have to spend a bunch of money on scrolls like you would with the Steel Titan, so a very cheap option to speed up your Slayer task. So if you are below 99 summoning and you're looking to either train combat or Slayer, make sure you're taking advantage of this familiar. Number 7 on the list is an old standby and one of a lower level Slayer's best friends, and this is the Bunyip. So the nice thing about the Bunyip is for the people out there that do not have the Soul Split Curse unlocked and also do not own a blood necklace because they are fairly expensive, very good for Slayer. However, the Bunyip is the next best thing. So what the Bunyip does is every 15 seconds it will heal you for 2% of your maximum HP. Now 2% doesn't sound like an awful lot, but with most Slayer tasks you're not going to be taking an awful lot of damage. So if you have, for example, 99 HP, so 9,900 maximum HP, every 15 seconds the Bunyip is going to be healing you for 198 HP. that's not too bad at all, and over the course of an entire Slayer task, which can take 20 to 30 minutes, that's going to be healing you a lot of HP, saving you a ton of money on food or time if you have to bank to grab more of it. And the Bunyip is just a great convenience familiar during Slayer or combat training as a lower level. Number 6 on the list is the Unicorn Stallion, and this familiar is just an upgraded Bunyip in a way. However, it does have a fairly high summoning level requirement. You need level 88 summoning in order to use this guy, but what he provides is even more healing than the Bunyip does, so you want to use scrolls with the Unicorn rather than the Bunyip just healing you passively. But the Unicorn scrolls will heal you 10% of your maximum HP. So if we stick with our level 99 HP example, that is 990 HP healed per scroll. So you are a little bit limited. You can't just relentlessly spam the scrolls because there is a summoning special bar. However, these scrolls can come in extremely handy if you're training in a spot where you don't get quite enough healing from your blood necklace or your Bunyip or something like that, and you just need a little bit more, and this is where the Unicorn Stallion can come in. Rarari are a great example if you are a lower level defense or wearing lower tier gear, and you are multi-targeting a bunch of Rarari and having them all aggro you, you will need a little bit of extra healing, and this is where the Unicorn Stallion just comes in perfectly. It also works for lower level PVM situations where you need some healing but not an awful lot, and the Unicorn Scrolls are a lot cheaper than using actual food. So if you're using the Unicorn Scrolls over something like Sharks or Rocktails, you're going to be saving a good amount of money as well. Number 5 on the list is the Steel Titan, and at first glance it might seem like the Steel Titan is just a bit of a letdown since he does require 99 summoning in order to use the highest summoning requirement familiar in the game, but this is still a very good familiar. What the Steel Titan does is, first of all, he has very high combat stats. He's been known to hit 1000 to 1.5k all the time on lower defense creatures which are weak to range because that is his primary method of attack. But what makes the Steel Titan so good is his Steel of Legend scrolls, which when used cause his next attack to hit 4 times instead of 1, and this familiar when used on the right Slayer task can speed up your task by about 10 to even 15% if you are attacking tasks where there's multiple creatures and the Steel Titan is always in combat. Some of the best tasks that the Steel Titan is useful at is Dark Beast, for example. Pretty good at Abyssal Demons too. So overall, what to take away from the Steel Titan, I personally use him all the time while slaying and found that he speeds up the task so much. He can be expensive to use because you do need to buy a lot of his scrolls in order for him to be effective, and he's not that great at PVM just because the accuracy of his attacks is not enough to help on most bosses. However, still a very solid summoning familiar for Slayer. Number 4 on the list is the Light Creature Pouch. This is a level 88 summoning familiar and has multiple very good skilling uses. So by itself, the familiar is not all that impressive. All it does is it provides a 10% chance in order to instantly convert memories when doing divination to experience. You don't even have to put them in the rift. However, it's when you use the scroll, the Enlightenment Scroll, from the Light Creature Pouch where it really shines. And this might be the most useful summoning scroll in the entire game. I would certainly make a case for it. And it does 3 different things. First of all, that 10% chance to instantly convert divination memories into experience, that turns into a 50% chance for the next 6 minutes when you use this scroll. That's really good all on its own, but it also does 2 other things. It does increase the rewards that you get from the Heffin Agility cores for that same 6-minute duration, and also when doing the Tears of Guthix minigame, it gives you a 10% chance in order to collect double blue cheers instead of only collecting 1 out of the bowl. So every single time you do your weekly Tears of Guthix, make sure that before you go in, you summon the Light Creature and use the scroll, and you'll get 10% extra reward experience from the minigame. So that's really good. Now, I can't exactly tell you just how useful the extra rewards are from the Heffin Agility, but I found that I got some more rewards such as Heffin, course multipliers, and corrupted ore, and less of the useless stuff such as mint cakes from the agility course. The scrolls for the Light Creature are not all that expensive, and they do last 6 minutes each, so it's definitely worth using if you're going to be doing Heffin Agility anyway, but it's not a significant experience boost. But this thing is great for divination. If you have the level 88 summoning to use it, and you want to train a lot of divination, this is your go-to familiar. Number 3 on the list is the Nihil pouches. These are level 87 summoning familiars that provide an extremely good boost. However, it can only be used in certain places. And what that boost is 5% accuracy to the respective combat style. You want to use the Blood Nihil for melee, the Smoke Nihil for magic, and the Shadow Nihil for range. There's also Nice Nihil as well, but I'll get into that one a little bit later because it provides an additional benefit. So this accuracy boost is so good against places where you need accuracy. What I'm showing off right here is using it against Arits. This is one of the best places to use the Blood Nihil because this is a task where melee is the most effective, at least if used within Curadel's dungeon. However, even with the Slayer Helmet overloads, you still will not have enough accuracy to fully hit these Arits every single time because their defense is so insane. So you do want to have a Nihil out in order to hit more accurately, and that will speed up your task by quite a bit. But anywhere else where you need accuracy for any one of the 3 combat styles, just make sure you're using the right Nihil. These are great, and a lot of PVM situations where you need a little bit more accuracy to get over the hump and hit slightly more often, as long as you can last without using a Beast of Burden for extra food, the Nihils are excellent in PVM situations as well. The only downside with the Nihils is the price. Now, they are fairly annoying creatures to make, so understandably they cost a decent amount. During this video, I had to buy a Nihil pouch for about 130k GE instant price, but they do last for a very long time. The Nihils last almost an hour and a half, so as long as you get the full use out of your familiar, it's definitely worth it for that extra accuracy boost, and it just can be extremely handy during Slayer or PVM. So, you didn't have to wait long to figure out where the Ice Nihil was going to land on the list, and the reason why the Ice Nihil is a little bit better than the other Nihil which boosts magic, which is the Smoke Nihil, is for some reason the Ice Nihil has an additional benefit. And what that is the Ice Nihil has a chance to lower your target's defense and your target's accuracy by 5%. Now this can be really good in certain situations. One of the best places in the entire game to use Ice Nihils is what I'm showing here in Calgarian Demons. Now unfortunately this is not as good for PVM as you might initially think because there are a lot of bosses in game which rapidly restore their stats as they are drained. So draining effects like Turmoil or the Ice Nihil's effect are not all that useful because the bosses will just restore their stats right away, but if you are using the Ice Nihil for stuff like Calgarian Demons or other places where you need extra help with magic, the Ice Nihil is definitely significantly better than its counterpart in the Smoke Nihil because in addition to raising your accuracy by 5%, it's also going to be lowering your opponent's defense by 5%, making it even easier to hit them. I personally always use this creature during Calgarian Slayer tasks, and it makes these one of the best Slayer tasks in game. So if you are using magic and you need some help with accuracy, make sure that you pick yourself up an Ice Nihil and take full advantage of it. Number 1 on the list, what else could it be? The number 1 overall customer-approved familiar experience in the Pack Yak. The Pack Yak is so versatile and so good almost everywhere in the game that you have to put him as number 1 because you probably will use this familiar more than any other familiar, no matter what type of player you are, as long as you're doing at least some sort of combat, PVM, Slayer, etc. So what the Pack Yak does is he is the best Beast of Burden in game. He has a 30 space inventory where you can store your food and potions if you're going to a boss, or you can store all of your Frost Dragon bones if you're going on a money making trip. He also has a Winter Stored Scroll ability where you can use scrolls from the Pack Yak in order to bank items. So overall, the Pack Yak is just extremely versatile and very great everywhere, saves you a ton of inventory space, and allows you to last much longer at bosses where you want to stay for hours but you need to carry additional supplies. The Pack Yak is great for that. It does require 96 summoning, so it takes a long time to get up to the Pack Yak, but it's well worth it. Well worth all the grind for charms and time that it takes to train summoning, and this is a familiar that you will be using all the time once you eventually reach 96. Definitely my personal favorite familiar in game, and he really helps out with just about anything combat related that you can think of. Alright gents, that's all for this video. Thank you for watching. I do have to apologize for the potentially psychologically damaging amounts of yak love in the last clip. I'm just a huge fan of Pack Yaks. I think they're great. But one thing that's always fun to do with top 10s is disagree with someone's list, so make sure you let me know what you think your favorite familiar in game is. I imagine for a lot of people it might be the Nihil instead of the Pack Yak, and that's completely fine. If you want to see other top 10 videos, I have a link to the playlist on screen in the description if you want to check that out. Also, make sure to leave your suggestion for the next top 10, and you'll be credited with the idea if I choose that. With that being said, that's all from me, so I'll see you next time. Farewell.